need self-improvement, you need self-acceptance. Self-improvement will get you the impressive career, the big house, the money, the followers, and the dream body. But what if I told you self-acceptance could give you all that and more? You see, some of us have started to believe the lie that in order to succeed, you have to be really hard on yourself, extremely disciplined and extremely strict, which for a lot of us has caused us to slowly start to become our own biggest bullies.
You need to work harder. You need to fucking discipline your mind better.
Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
We penalize ourselves for not waking up at 6 a.m. We're harsh on ourselves when we don't meet our monthly goals. We set crazy, ambitious goals, convincing ourselves this is how we'll become successful, and this is how we'll finally become someone of value. We make a vision board but worry when we haven't manifested every single thing on it. We hate the fact that we've not achieved our goals given how much time is passing. We look at ourselves and we hyperanalyze all the things that we're doing wrong, and we double down on self-improvement, and we double down on being harsh on ourselves. We get into this self-deprecating and self-improving loop, which makes us feel good about ourselves when things get better, but worse about ourselves when we're not making enough progress. After a 4-year-long self-improvement journey and learning that self-improvement has limits, what if I told you that the secret wasn't self-improvement, but the secret was actually self-acceptance instead? Hey, if you're new, I'm Christina and I make videos for people who are feeling lonely. If you're a people pleaser, overachiever, overthinker, over anythinger, you're in the right place. Self-improvement is all fun and games until you start to have crippling anxiety about the fact that you're not doing enough, or you're not good enough, you're not where you want to be yet. Like, there's self-improvement makes you hyper aware of the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And sometimes I feel like that gap can become the enemy and the thing that makes you feel bad about yourself, rather than the thing that kind of makes you optimistic and hopeful for the future. I have a lot to say on this topic, so we're going to get into that now. But before I do, I wanted to make you guys aware I'm going to be going live on the 22nd of September. I'm going to be going live at 5 p.m. BST to chat about all things I talk about on my channel: self-improvement, self-acceptance, friendships, loneliness, confidence. It's just going to be like a general chit chat really. So if you can make it, definitely come along. I'd love to see you there on the live. Self-improvement creates excellence, but self-acceptance creates happiness. I know different people are going to click on this video at different stages of the self-improvement journey. So some people might be like, I don't agree with anything you're saying. Like, self-improvement makes me really happy. Like, I'm doing amazing and I feel really good about myself. That's cool. You're probably like very early days of the self-improvement journey, or maybe like you've been on a self-improvement journey, but you've not been like toxic with it like some people have. For other people, self-improvement, you do get a bit of a high and you do get a bit of like a dopamine reward. Like, you feel yourself improving and you feel really like confident about yourself and like you feel proud of the progress you're making, but it gets to a point where it actually makes you feel bad about yourself because you feel like you're not making the huge leaps in progress like you used to. And you start to look at yourself and feel bad, like, what am I doing wrong? And you convince yourself, I need to read more books and do more and be more disciplined. And that's where like the self-deprecation, self-improvement loop that I talked about before goes on. What I've noticed over the years with all the things that I've done and the coaches I've worked with and the books that I've read is self-improvement will make you really good at what you do, but self-acceptance makes you good at what you do, but also happy with who you are. Like, with self-improvement, I feel like the goal is to like maximize and always kind of like do more, achieve more, get more, earn more. Whereas self-acceptance is more like, as you are right now, looking in the mirror, you're completely okay and accepting of that. Whereas sometimes self-improvement can like easily like trickle into like, okay, well, you have progress to make, you still have more money to earn, more achievements to achieve, and like more weight to lose. Like, you're not good enough yet. And that good enough yet is the thing that will start to make you feel terrible about yourself. It's not bad at all that you want to improve or that you want to kind of like start a self-improvement journey. I feel like it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself. The self-improvement in itself is not the bad thing. Wanting to make yourself a better person, wanting to make yourself like more knowledgeable and like understand things better, understand yourself better and become more self-aware, none of that's a problem. The problem isn't that you want to be better. The problem is that you think you need to be better to be valuable. The problem is like you placing you being a person of value, you being worthy, you being a good enough person. You've placed that all into the future and you've said, only me when I've achieved this level of success is good enough. Only me when I have this business is valuable. Only me with this car and this house and manifested all these things on this vision board. Only that version of me is valuable. This version of me right now, not valuable. That's the problem. You might be wondering what actually is self-acceptance. The official definition of self-acceptance says this is an individual's acceptance of his or her attributes, positive or negative. I feel like that's pretty bland and not really like giving anything. To me, self-acceptance means I don't need anything else, anything added to me. I don't need anything external to feel like I am valuable as a person and I'm already the best version of myself. I don't need a better job. I don't need more money. I don't need to look better. I don't need to lose weight. I don't need to gain weight. I don't need to do anything more to already believe that I'm a valuable and good enough person as I am. Which is why I think self-improvement can be really attractive to people who maybe have a lot of insecurities. Like the reason I got into self-improvement was for a bunch of different reasons. I felt at the time really ugly in my appearance. Like I felt like I had nothing to offer physically. And as a girl, it's quite like your appearance, it's more than just like, oh, I want to be pretty. It's like, this is when you're young and you're a girl and you feel unattractive, you feel like this will like haunt you for the rest of your life. Like you're never going to have friends because you're unattractive. You're never going to have a relationship. You're never going to like have true friends that like you. As I'm saying it now, it sounds ridiculous, but looking back, I had so much riding on the fact that like I want to be like a more attractive person. I want to be not only just attractive in looks, but also in personality. I felt really boring at the time. I felt like I had no personality, nothing to offer. And I'm not going to lie, one of the other things that got me into self-improvement was I wanted to earn more money. At the time as well, I was in medical school, but junior doctors were striking because junior doctors in the UK only get £14 an hour. It does increase over time, but it's by no means like aspirational compared to like the US. Like you guys' salaries for doctors is crazy. So I was like, I want more for myself. I believe I can achieve more. I'm a hard worker. I know I can put in the work. If I combine my hard work and self-improvement, I'm sure I can achieve something big. I came into self-improvement wanting to like develop myself, my appearance, my personality, but also like to kind of like learn how to make money as well. I'd say one of the most common things people get into self-improvement for is like money and success, to be fair. And self-improvement works. Once I read a couple of books and once I was listening to like a couple of podcasts consistently, I noticed an improvement in my life. Like at the time, I probably didn't think it was good enough or I wasn't making the progress as quickly as I wanted to. But looking back in like just a year of like reading those books, I can see and think back to who I was and I'm like, I made a huge jump. I went from being someone who was terrified to go up to like a stranger to someone who was very comfortable with it very, very quickly. I wanted to learn more about business and money and success and like how to like invest my money financially and how to like leverage, even though I don't have like an amazing 6-figure company, 7-figure company like all these people do. But like the little money that I did have, I wanted to learn how to invest it. And I learned very quickly, like investing isn't as hard as you think and it's a lot more straightforward than what some people make out to be. So I was able to do that very quickly as well. So the ultimate goal of my self-improvement journey, I probably achieved within a year, maybe even 2 years, like it was all achieved. But the sad thing is when I think back, to like that girl, like that 19-year-old Christina, like she never thought it was good enough. Like she was investing, but she wanted to like invest more. Or yeah, she became confident. She could go up to strangers. She could like be herself in a room full of people, but like she wanted to be more outgoing. There was a huge reliance on self-improvement to boost my confidence instead of a reliance on self-acceptance to boost my confidence instead. Forgiveness might be your biggest barrier to self-improvement. So I have a funny story about this. Basically, I've gone on a self-improvement journey. I'm kind of over it now though. Like I don't read like loads of self-improvement books anymore. I'm kind of over it. And I feel like I'm reaping the rewards of self-improvement and now I'm very much in self-acceptance land. But the other day I was at a party with like, it's an influencer party. So there was a bunch of like Instagrammers, TikTokers, YouTubers there, right? I was talking to one girl that I know quite well. And then there were 2 other girls there. These girls are big YouTubers. Like when I say combined, they have like 1 million subscribers. Like I'm not even joking. Like I was a little bit like, I've watched their videos before as well. So it was like a bit surreal seeing them in person, but I tried to play it cool. I was just being myself. And like we were getting along, conversation was flowing. I was pretty relaxed, pretty chill. At one point, we're in like a group of 4 or 5, someone with the 2 big YouTubers, someone cracks a joke. And the chewing gum that I'm chewing, just to kind of keep my breath minty. The chewing gum that I was chewing literally flies out of my mouth and flies across the room. And I literally was like, Christina, that is so embarrassing. Like, I was like, this cannot get any worse. Like, of all the times for chewing gum to fly out of my mouth, why is it in front of these 2 girls? Thankfully, as it happened, someone brought over like some canapes of different food to eat. So like the focus of the conversation shifted very quickly to like the food that was coming around. And I was like, thank God, because I was just so embarrassed. Like I literally was like, I'm never chewing gum again. Like I need to figure out something else to chew when I need my breath to be minty because I can't have that. Anyway, I'm sharing that story to say, after it happened, I kind of laughed it off. And I think a couple people laughed it off, but I was very like, I'm not feeling guilty and like penalizing myself for it. When I think back to that moment, I genuinely think back now and I'm like laughing at it. But 19-year-old Christina that was obsessed with self-improvement and got into self-improvement because she wanted to be more charismatic and more outgoing and more like have more of a personality and wanted to impress people when she goes out, she would look at that situation and literally like die inside. Like the thought of embarrassing myself like that in front of two huge YouTubers who are like obviously very cool and very like, I don't know, very cool. That's a weird thing to say. They were very normal actually. One thing I reflect on at that party was how normal influencers are, but that's a story for another day. Me before literally would have like panicked and died inside about the fact that I've embarrassed myself so much, and I wouldn't have forgiven myself. Like I literally would have, like, anytime I go to a party after that, I'd be like, Christina, don't do this, don't chew chewing gum, don't stand too close to people. Like I would have given myself so many rules. But I do think the thing that you struggle with the most and the thing that's drawn you into self-improvement, maybe there's an area in your life there that you need to start forgiving yourself over. Trying to be more outgoing and be more social was what brought me into self-improvement. And I think it's because back in the day when I had an embarrassing moment, and or maybe like I'm talking to someone and I like mess up my words and I like slip up and I don't sound very like articulate, I think I wouldn't have forgiven myself for that. I would go home, walk away from that conversation and be like, Christina, why did you say that? Like, you're so silly. Like, you sound ridiculous. I wouldn't forgive myself and just accept the fact that like I make mistakes. I mess up my words. I spit out chewing gum sometimes when I'm like laughing. Like sometimes that happens. For you, maybe your ambition is actually you want to have like a really prestigious career. Like you want to become some sort of doctor, dentist, engineer, banker. Like you want something really like has a lot of weight to it, the career. And so maybe you do need to, maybe if that's a huge thing for you that brings a lot of insecurity, the thought of not getting that career or not landing that job, maybe you need to forgive yourself for the fact that like, it's okay to be average. I know that sounds weird, but like I used to have a huge problem with like always striving to be the best. Like anything less than the best is like disgusting. Like I don't want to be number 2. I don't want to be number 3. I always want to be number 1. I thought it was a good trait to have, but now I'm seeing it as like, Christina, it's okay to accept yourself and recognize that you can be average. Being average isn't a disease. You can be average and still be of value. It's maybe something we actually have to look internally at ourselves and be like, why do you attribute so little value to being average? Or why do you attribute so little value to like being a more quiet person that's reserved in a social group? Like all these things I had to reevaluate for myself. And one huge thing that I've realized has helped me a lot with self-acceptance is like just forgiving myself for making mistakes. And the reason this is so important is because some of us are our own worst bullies. Like the way that you talk to yourself and penalize all the things that you've done wrong, and the way that you're telling yourself to make up for it next time. All of that negative self-talk is holding you back, and it's almost making like the efforts you put into self-improvement, it's almost like deducting them in a way, because you're so harsh with yourself that the efforts you're making to improve aren't based on like a healthy, supportive foundation. The best way I can describe it is, imagine you've had an argument with like a really important family member, say like your mum or your dad. You and your dad have fallen out, you've had an argument, and like you're not really talking afterwards. Imagine weeks, months go by, you might see them here and there, but there's still friction. We've all had this where you have an argument, things haven't fully resolved, and there's still a weird energy there that hasn't fully like, you can't relax, you can't be yourself yet back with them. Imagine then, you guys actually do sit down, you talk it out, you actually forgive each other, you share your side of the story, they share theirs, you hug it out, things have improved, and you've actually forgiven each other. Only then can you actually move forward and feel better about the situation. Only then can you actually be yourself around your dad again. Only then can your dad be himself around you. That's the same with you. There's probably something you haven't, or maybe multiple things that you haven't forgiven yourself for. And I've touched on a few examples in this video, but definitely have a think. You won't be able to work your way out or self-improve your way out of that problem. Like you actually just need to forgive yourself. It doesn't matter how much work you put in, all the self-improvement books you read, there's just some things you actually just need to forgive yourself for. Pursuing perfection only makes you more insecure. Being a perfectionist seems like it's a really good trait to have. Like you make everything to a really high standard, or you're really good at everything you do. Everything you do is perfect or like really, really high quality. But what I've come to realize as someone who's not a perfectionist anymore, I used to be that way, but I'm really not anymore. When you're a perfectionist, you train yourself to see the flaws in things. At work, that can be amazing because if you're looking at a presentation, you can spot the flaws or spot the areas to improve. Or if you're like a creative and you're making like artwork, making songs, making videos, you can spot the flaws and see where you want to improve and make it more like artistic. However, if you're a perfectionist with yourself and you're training yourself to see the flaws in yourself, Again, all fun and games at the start when you start your journey and you start to like improve your self-awareness, improve your communication, improve your confidence. It then gets to a certain point where you're actually a pretty amazing person, but you can't see this because you're still so focused on the negative. And it's one of the tough things I had to learn is that trying to be perfect won't make you happy, but being good enough will make you happy. I know this might not land with some people because saying like good enough or just accept yourself, like just forgive yourself, it's okay. Like I'm saying all these things and I know some people won't like that because it sounds like you're settling or you're saying like, oh, you don't even want to accept yourself as you are because you want to be more. And I know what that's like because I have been there. It's very much a state when I was there, it was like my insecurities were leading all the decisions that I made. Even though I didn't seem insecure on the surface, I seemed pretty confident because I made progress. I was just so afraid of ever even getting close to my insecurities again, or ever being seen as shy, ever being seen as like quiet and reserved, ever being seen as like not good enough, that I would like run away from them. I didn't want to, like the thought of self-acceptance to me back then would have been like absolutely no. I probably wouldn't have clicked on my own video because I didn't like the thought of just accepting myself as I am. I was like, I want to be way more impressive, way more extravagant, way more like important and valuable than that. Like I'm not going to accept myself. I thought not accepting myself would like propel me towards being the ideal version of myself. But trust me, that does not work. All it does is propel you to be more anxious and unhappy, because going back to the perfectionists and how they work is like, you're just training yourself to see the flaws. All you see is where you have to work on. All you see is improvements to make. All you see is not good enough. That is how you will feel. One thing that helped with this though is like celebrating myself more. Like I postponed celebrating myself so much. And something that I've come to realize more as self-acceptance is leading my life and not self-improvement is that celebrating yourself is a habit, not an occasion. Some of the people that are so desperate to be celebrated and seen and acknowledged and recognized and praised are the people that will never see, celebrate, praise and acknowledge themselves. I used to hate having my birthday because I'd hate the attention that that it would bring on to me. Like I'd hate the thought of like people all looking at me and like everyone singing happy birthday to me, or like I have to decide what to wear. Everyone's gonna be taking photos. If it wasn't even that, even recently, sometimes things with like celebrating 10K or celebrating 20K on here would be really uncomfortable for me to post about on Instagram or on LinkedIn, because I'd be like, I just hate the thought of bringing attention to myself. Yet, deep down, back then, I want people to acknowledge me. I'd want people to talk about my YouTube. Like it was weird that I would be scared to celebrate it and post like, I hit 10K, but I would want people to know about it. Like my actions and then my wishes and desires weren't in alignment. And one thing I will say is that's probably the case for people that are obsessed with self-improvement, but are really self-deprecating and a little bit unhappy, is that you want to feel good about yourself. You want to feel really proud of the progress you've made, the success you've built, the journey you're on, who you've become. You want to feel proud of yourself. But you refuse to be proud of yourself because you never celebrate yourself. Celebrating yourself is a habit, not an occasion. It can be literally little things you do for yourself. It can be like taking the evening off and watching a movie. Or it can be like having like a little moment in your room where you just listen to all your favorite songs, you dance around your room, make a whole bunch of noise, and that's it. Celebrating yourself doesn't have to be for everyone else. It can literally just be for you, but it is a habit. It's something you have to do regularly, because by the time you do become that ideal version of yourself that has the business, has the money, like unless you get into the habit of celebrating yourself now, that version also won't celebrate themselves. And it's a sad thought to think that the person you want to become, all the things they have, the partner, the house, the money, the business, or the career, it's sad to think that you could actually become that person and not celebrate yourself and like not like throw a party with your friends and family. You would just continue to go back to work, continue to be on the grind, continue to sit on your laptop into the evenings because you never celebrate yourself. Like that's actually so sad. When I think of who I want to become and I think of her not celebrating herself, that actually makes me sad and be like, Christina, sort yourself out, fix things, because you can't have that. If you found this video interesting, you might enjoy my what I learned from therapy video. I go into a bunch of things that I've learned over the years from therapy, and I'm going to link that video here.